What's up, guys? So I've actually had a pretty hard time pressing the go live button for this. I've made some notes as I do occasionally. Of course, I've got this stupid stream audio on. Normally I do a better job of collecting my thoughts before I broadcast to however many thousands of people this is ultimately going to end up being. But hey, we hit 10 million subscribers today. I don't know, part of me feels like it's stupid to celebrate these sorts of milestones. I haven't celebrated a birthday since I was, I don't know, old enough that my parents planned it for me, to sort of put it in that context. I tend not to get really sentimental about things like that, but I don't know, this feels different for some reason. Like, it doesn't change anything. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to go to the same office. I'm going to make the same videos with the same people. But for some reason, I have felt this immense pressure around the 10 million subscriber milestone. And honestly, Nick, I'm sure you're watching this. You weren't helping today. He came in, he's like, yo, it's go time, it's like 600 more subscribers. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like you're supposed to make an amazing video. You're supposed to have like a really heartwarming message. And like, honestly, I more than anything else, I consider myself a professional writer at this point, right? That's what I do more than anything else with my time. Actually, that's kind of a lie. I'm more of like a copy editor, but writing is really what I do. If I wanted to just write some heartwarming thing, it's fine. I can crap that out in my sleep. But I couldn't make myself do this. I couldn't even make myself look at it. I couldn't make myself work on it. And the cold hard truth is that I have been putting it off because I didn't know how to say any of the things that I wanted to say. So there's a few ones that are easy. You guys have made me the luckiest person in the world. I'm sure a lot of people have said this in the history of Earth, but I actually mean it. I wouldn't trade my shoes, or sandals as it were, for anybody else's. You pick a famous movie star, or a world leader, or whatever you name it, it doesn't matter. I love my life. It's absolutely perfect in every way. I have an amazing group of colleagues that I, literally had the privilege of handpicking. So much of our personal identities gets tied up, for better or for worse, just gets tied up in, what we do for work. It's a big part of life. And I'm privileged to have the best job in the world. I get to spend my life doing what I've always loved, which is playing around with tech and talking tech with people. Ever since I got my first big computer upgrade to a 486 or whatever it was, if we could get a CD-ROM drive, like, I've always loved it. I have an amazing family. My wife's awesome. I think I did manage to put together some notes. I think I thank her like at least a few times in here, but it won't be enough. She's given everything. It's funny, she would get really self-conscious about her cesarean section scar. So she has a scar on her bikini line, and it's something that ever since we had our first child, she's been really subconscious about it. I'm like, you know what, hon? Every time I look at that, I don't see, a disfigurement. Like, I see a battle scar. I see, like, you went through a lot to give us these perfect kids, perfect family. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it all happened. I've got this following of literally 10 million. And it kind of feels like luck sometimes. I'm probably more like you guys than you realize. Like, when I was a kid, I had friends, yeah. but like two. I was one of the weird kids. I remember doing things that embarrass the heck out of me now. Um, I changed schools in grade six, and somehow on my first day, I ended up in a shin kicking competition with a girl on the school bus to, I mean, what I was trying to prove to anybody, I have no idea. I just, I don't even remember anymore. I mean, and then on that first day, um, some kid decided to call me a faggot. So my brilliant battle plan there was to ask the teacher. I really did this. I asked the teacher if I could go up in front of the class, and I thought, maybe if I could clarify the meaning of that word, maybe people would stop using it to describe me. So I got up in front of a grade six class full of people that I didn't know, and I said something about, a bundle of sticks and twigs. I don't remember the details anymore, but I definitely remember ending up with the nickname faggot for the next couple of years. It didn't get much better in high school when I had the brilliant idea of dyeing my hair hot pink for the first day of grade 8. We don't have middle school where I grew up, so I literally went from the elementary school in grade 7 to grade 8 high school, and I showed up with pink hair. I'm this like tiny short kid with a squeaky voice. I don't know, it's funny. I didn't really think much of it at the time, but I remember running into one of my elementary school teachers, and when I looked back on the encounter, I realized how relieved they seemed that I appeared to have turned out okay. Like, I never did anything like really bad as a kid, but it was just like I kind of ended up in the principal's office a lot. Anyway, yeah, I turned out okay. Tonight's kind of a mixing pot of emotions for me. This is an incredible milestone, one that kind of marks me achieving everything that I could have possibly, like if I'd sat there, on day one of my life, and been in the kind of mental state, infants, they don't seem to think or do much, but if I had been, and I had set like a checklist for myself, everything I could ever hope to accomplish, I've basically gotten there. I mean, I've gone from being the weird kid to finding 10 million of you who are weird in exactly the same way that I am. But I guess the flip side of that is a big part of me feels like, well, I guess I'm done then. I'm at a stage right now where, for better or for worse, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, my company would probably survive. My wife wouldn't have to work another day in her life, and my kids would all go to whatever college they want. People would be sad, I hope, but life would totally go on for everyone. The title is not clickbait, for those of you wondering. I haven't really shared any of these thoughts with anyone but my wife. She is my muse, my flame, my confidant, my lover, my best friend. She's my rock. But the truth is, I've been thinking about retiring for quite some time now. And I've kind of half joked about it, partly because it felt so far off that I didn't think I'd, ever. I mean, I knew I'd get there because the numbers say I'm going to get there, but I didn't feel like I'd ever really get there. 10 million. I would often joke about, hey, maybe that's what I should do for 10 million. I should be like, hey, thanks. It's been a wild ride. See ya. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of people, both within my organization and outside of it, who won't be surprised to hear that I and think about these things. I mean, why else would I, over the last 7 years, 7 or 8, I don't know, it's been a long time. Why else would I be constantly trying to bring in new talent and like build a company around this? I remember back when I first started doing it, most YouTubers were one man or one woman bands, and they kind of thought I was crazy for like hiring all these people and all these buildings and all this overhead. Like, what are you doing? The truth is, if I wanted to just ball out hard and just have fun every day making videos about tech stuff for the rest of my life, I could do that with a handful of people. I don't need to build all these processes and procedures and systems and all that stuff. It's been becoming more and more obvious to me that because of all those things that I'm focused on, I haven't had the time and energy to keep up with some of the minutiae of the tech world the way that I used to, the way that I love to. And it's not, honestly speaking. Sometimes I feel like it, but it's not because I don't care anymore. I mean, there have been a handful of times, massive shout out to my team, because a lot of YouTubers don't get to take a week off, but there have been a handful of times when I've taken a week off and within a few days I'm getting the itch to upgrade the firmware on something, or swap out a whatever, just kind of see what happens, right? But the reason that I am having a hard time keeping up is I just find my life is so full of other priorities right now. I mean, there's the business, there's the job of being a dad. I have 3 kids now. There's just the responsibility of having this team of 30 people that, they want to meet about, a project on the weekend they want to borrow some gear for, or, their creative fulfillment, or, they're going through something personally, financially, or emotionally, and there's so many demands. And I think that the mishap with the Radeon 5600 XT, is a perfect example of this. My attention was split over the last few days, and I was only about 30% listening to Anthony when he explained the issue to me. So the issue is that AMD issued a firmware update to the cards that made them perform better at the last possible second. And pretty much as soon as he said, yeah, we did all of our testing with the updated firmware, I kind of tuned out for some of the finer details, which included that some of the cards had already shipped with the slower firmware, and that board partners didn't have a clear plan for how they were going to fix them for people. So reviews were effectively going to be advertising a card that was going to be slower for some people than advertised. And then I didn't follow it up. I compounded my error by saying it wasn't a big deal on TechLinked. I have since edited that video. I don't know if it'll be updated by this time, but the truth of the matter is that in that moment, in the context of all the other things that I have going on in my life, between my son's extra credit homework project, or one of my daughters having potty trouble, or the other videos that I've been working on for the last couple of days just being, quite frankly, more interesting to me, or this milestone that has created more stress than anything else for me, honestly. I let it slip through the cracks, and that's 100% on me, and that weighs on me. I mean, I'm human and I make mistakes from time to time, but I also take my responsibilities as a source of information seriously. I mean, in this case, I honestly think that by the time the 5600 XT has run its course, 99.9% of the buyers, I think, I come from retail. I know how many of these cards probably shipped on launch day. It ain't that many. 99.9, maybe even 9% of the buyers will not have been affected by this issue. And in a world where the environment is being contaminated by microplastics and micro rubber, and a literal continent just got burnt to a crisp, and somehow with all the modern mechanization at our disposal, children are still starving. You know what, a couple FPS because AMD didn't pre-overclock your card, that you can fix by moving a slider in their optional software. I don't know. False advertising is bad, but I just couldn't get that upset about it. I had a pretty life-changing experience a little while ago, and I haven't talked to too many people about it, but I guess what I've decided for this 10 million mark is to just speak with you guys openly. I don't really do it that often. I try to, for the most part, right? I'm trying to build a company, I'm trying to build a brand, I try to hide behind that, but I had a pretty life-changing experience a little while ago. My initial reaction to having someone choose Linus Tech Tips for a Make-A-Wish. I don't know if you know the Make-A-Wish Foundation or Miracle Network. I don't know. It's one of them. Basically, it's one of those things where sick kids can ask to do something or meet someone. So when I first found out about that, I was just like, I was kind of tickled by it. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Hashtag goals, I guess. Then shortly after I had agreed to do something, we didn't know exactly what it was going to be, I got a follow-up that suddenly the situation had changed quite dramatically, and the kid in question was too sick to travel, and that his priority had been upgraded to urgent or something along those lines. They wanted to know if I could still do something, and basically, like when they asked, they were like, "Hey, can you still do something? By the way, it needs to be done like right now." And they asked if I could record a personalized video for him, and that's what I do every day. I record videos. So I picked up my phone, I pointed it at myself, and I just tried to think of something to say, and I couldn't. And I looked at their guidelines, and it had just the most useless stuff in it. It was like, be upbeat and don't talk about death. And I was just like, this kid's 12. He's like dying of leukemia. Like, what? Last thing I can do right now is be upbeat. The only thought going through my head is like, everyone and everything I know is gonna die. So anyway, actually I didn't even put this in my notes, but I got an email from his dad a couple weeks ago, and it was actually kind of beautiful. He put together like a digital photo album of his son. One sec. You'll all have to bear with me. He put together a digital photo album of his son that just about broke my heart. It was, just everything he loved, everything he was really passionate about, everything he was great at. It had a big section at the end that was just dedicated to the computer that we built. So I helped spec out a machine, and I think it was Make-A-Wish. I'm sorry, I don't remember which foundation it was, but they gathered the parts and sent them to him. He was almost too sick to build it, too weak. He eventually did manage to build it. He got to play some games on it, which I guess is about the most you can ask. But yeah, it was a few months later, he just sent me a note saying it made a big difference, and I didn't really understand why. I mean, I was glad it helped, but it felt like such a small thing. Anyway, all I could see in the photo album was my kids. The whole thing made me question why I'm doing this. So I told myself at the beginning, well, it's about supporting my family, right? Like, why do you do anything? Why do you do a job? But it's pretty obvious to me it's about something else now. I mean, every time my wife would ask me, "Hey, how long do we need to keep doing these kinds of hours? Like, how long do we need to keep pushing like this before we can just back off and like have a life?" Like, I joke about it in our videos or on stream sometimes. I don't have any friends. The truth is, like, really, outside of people that I have met at work and then that I still work with, and my wife, like, I can count people that I would consider to be friends on like one hand, and people that I would consider to be confidants, not at all. But I would just always move the goalposts on her. You know, I started with, hey, look, I'm going to slow down when we have kids. Then I said, hey, thanks for basically soloing our first kid in spite of your postpartum depression and all that. Good job. Tell you what, I'll slow down when we have a second one. And then I said I'd slow down when they're old enough to remember that daddy was always working. And then I said I'd slow down when they got to the age where they really need parent involvement to, you know, help them with their homework or their sports club or whatever else. And it's kind of funny because the whole thing actually sort of reminds me of Walter's character in Breaking Bad. Like, it starts out just as a way to pay a bill. You know, he needs to treat his sickness, right? And then it moves on to him telling himself that it's about supporting his family and giving them a better life. And then eventually he realizes that the only reason he was doing it was because he wanted to for himself. And I mean, I'm not manufacturing and dealing meth, obviously, but sometimes I do wonder about the wider impact that I'm having on the world and whether it's a legacy that I am going to be proud of. Those of you who know me personally, which is very few of you probably, know that while I do have a studio full of flashy toys and cool gear, those are not the sorts of things that I would actually buy for myself. I'm the sort of person who believes in buying nice things, yes, but buying things that are nice in the sense that they have an ongoing value. You know, things like the fast fashion industry I find extraordinarily offensive. You should buy more expensive clothes because they're going to last longer or because they have more utility. You know, every car that I've owned personally has been secondhand, and to this date I have driven every single one of them into the ground. I mean, it's not because it gives me some kind of satisfaction to sit in a vehicle every day with no air conditioning, like the Lambo, you know, the Super Civic. Didn't even have AC or working door locks. It's just more, I hate waste. And as I grow older, I'm finding the kind of mindless consumerism that our videos, whether I like to or not, end up promoting more and more troubling. I don't have a solution to it. I love tech and I want to make videos about tech, and ultimately, I mean, part of this whole sense of aimlessness is that I don't feel like I'm ultimately going to make a difference one way or the other if I do change what I'm doing. I just kind of feel like none of it matters. So don't expect tomorrow's video to be any different from the one the day before it. Quite honestly, I mean, maybe it won't gloss over important details like AMD effectively bait and switching their customers on the performance of their graphics card, but you know, fundamentally it's going to be about the same thing. But I just thought it was, you know, high time we have a heart-to-heart, right? I only do this once every crazy big milestone. Anyway, the point of this is not to make you guys worry that I'm going away. I also really don't need you guys to pick me up off the mat. I'm not down. I'm certainly not out. I guess really the end of it is that I just wanted to share with you guys what's given me the motivation to just keep doing it. I'm just going to do it because I love it. And I'm not going to try and tell myself that it's for money or that it's for supporting my kids or whatever else. I'm just going to do it because I love it. The thing I love is definitely changed. You know, I started out just because I loved tech. I wasn't particularly well compensated given the hours that I put in for being the tech tips guy when I worked at the computer store, but all I cared about was that it gave me an excuse to take home the latest gear for a test drive, right? And then you guys came along, and because you supported me, I eventually was able to work my way all the way up to getting early samples and all the inside info and parlaying this influence, this status as sort of the face of the brand into, well, effectively a promotion, right? So it turned into a livelihood. Then I launched the business, and I was always upfront with you guys. I loved tech. That's my first love. But if I couldn't make money at it, I was going to have to go get a real job. Thanks to you guys, I never needed to. Linus Media Group turned I'm pretty sure it was 7. Man, don't quote me on that. But Minus Media Group has gotten from the point where a bank wouldn't even like give us a credit card to we actually got invited to like a client event a little while ago, and like I'm really not into that kind of stuff, but it felt, it made me feel kind of like, hey, we did something, we did what we set out to do. They call us a company now instead of that client who makes YouTube videos. So yeah, the purpose. So I'm going to keep doing it, but I'm not going to look for a reason anymore, because it really doesn't matter what you do. And the thing that I have reflected on a lot over the last little while, and the conclusion I've come to, is that who cares? What is life, right? It's the people you do it with, not what you do. And in my whole incredible journey, there's been only a few constants. My wife, I want to thank her again. She's amazing. She is more responsible for all the good things I've ever done or become than you guys could possibly know. I've made mistakes. She's talked me down from a lot of ledges. Next up, my team. They're incredible. They're wonderful. They put their heart and soul into everything we do, and it's funny. It's gone from, like a lot of them I felt like had a personal loyalty to me in the early days, and now I feel like it's bigger than that. They've got a personal loyalty to each other, to the brand, to the audience, and that was what I always set out to build. And you guys have been a constant. I mean, whether you were a subscriber 10 million and 10,595,000 or whatever, it doesn't matter, or number one. Back to what I said at the beginning, you guys are the reason that I have what I would honestly consider to be the best life ever. And so I want to thank you guys. I'm going to stop looking for a purpose in it. I'm just going to have fun doing what I'm doing. So I'm not retiring. That's why the stream, which is not clickbait, is titled I've Been Thinking of Retiring. I'm also not promising that I'm not going to retire. I'm just taking a different approach, and we're going to see how it goes. If I feel like, I'm going to have a lot of fun making Channel Super Fun, then that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, one way or another, my kids are taken care of, but that doesn't mean I don't still feel a huge sense of indebtedness and responsibility for my staff, for you guys. I'm not going to abandon my post if the time isn't right, if the channel's not going to be okay, if the company's not going to be okay. My love of tech's not going anywhere, so if I did go somewhere, I'm sure I wouldn't stay away for long, but that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for putting up with my crappy microphone. I mean, it wasn't intentional. It was just more me putting off doing this and not wanting to plan it, that I didn't bring a proper microphone home. So I just have like my mod mic. It's like Gen 2. It sucks. But normally it doesn't really matter because I don't use it. I think that's all I have to say for now. Wild ride, emotional roller coaster of a stream. Again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you to those who are super chatting. I'm sorry, I really don't know if I want to stay live anymore right now. But thank you for your support, and good night, everybody.